You've probably heard it, you might have used it yourself, but do you really understand it? I am talking about life expectancy with all its connotations. When someone tells you that people live on average a certain number of years, they most likely refer to life expectancy at birth, i.e., at what age is an average newborn expected to die. The number is derived from statistics rather than medically. The statisticians calculate the percentage of people that died in the given year in every age category. How many 1-year-olds have died? How many 40-year-olds? How many 70-year-olds? They do this for every single age and then calculate the average age of death that year. With this knowledge, we can answer 4 questions that will help you grasp life expectancy in its entirety. Most importantly, how to increase life expectancy. What is the life expectancy at different stages of life? How to understand historic life expectancy? And how long are you actually expected to live? So how do we increase life expectancy? An important point is that the statistic does not distinguish between the causes of death. It does not matter if it's caused by old age, disease, murder, car crash, suicide, overdose, or a bee sting. They all influence the life expectancy in the same way. Therefore, there are broadly 2 ways to increase life expectancy. One, which is on most people's minds, is to make people live longer, stretching the maximum lifespan of Homo sapiens. Secondly, we can prevent premature deaths, making sure that people survive until the old age in the first place. This second way is historically much more important. When it comes to early death, there is nothing as premature as death of an infant. Hence, it decreases the average more than anything. By the way, abortions and miscarriages are not included. Globally, the states with the lowest life expectancies are almost invariably also the poorest ones. It is no wonder that those countries also suffer from the highest infant mortality rates. The list is dominated by countries such as Sierra Leone, Somalia or Nigeria, with more than 70 infants dying per 1,000 births. Conversely, the richest countries usually have less than 5 dying infants per 1,000 births. This difference alone decreases the overall life expectancy in the poorest countries by at least half a decade. Another globally significant factor is disease. War, crime, and terrorism are important factors in the less developed countries, but elsewhere it has much lower impact than people expect. Interestingly, more people die of suicide than by homicide, with the exception of several Latin American and African states. In Europe, the difference is an entire order of magnitude. People also die in road accidents, work or sport-related accidents, airplane crashes or encounters with animals, not to forget natural disasters and air pollution. However, these are relatively minor causes, and even complete eradication would increase the life expectancy only by a few weeks or months individually, and perhaps by a few years combined. A worrisome development is the rapid increase in drug overdoses, especially in the United States, where it is now one of the leading causes of death for young and middle-aged adults, especially males. The so-called opioid crisis is the main reason why US life expectancy slightly dropped in the second half of the last decade, while it increased in most of the world. However, the largest obstacle to longer life expectancy in developed nations lies somewhere between the categories of premature deaths and lifespan extension. The elephant in the room is obesity, no pun intended. Lifestyle, including obesity rates, smoking, lack of movement, etc., are the main reason why cardiovascular diseases are by far the #1 leading cause of death worldwide. The second leading cause, cancer, is still somewhat of a mystery. Nonetheless, the data convincingly show that obesity is a significant risk factor for many types of cancer. Therefore, blaming the life expectancy differential between United States and, for example, Japan on the healthcare system would be missing most of the picture. When it comes to maximum lifespan, we haven't made much progress there for thousands of years. But now, we may be entering an age where the maximum lifespan of Homo sapiens will be rewritten. Lifestyle extension can be brought about in 2 ways: lifestyle optimization and artificial technological enhancement. No one represents lifestyle optimization better than Brian Johnson. Perfect sleep, nutrition, exercise, posture, light exposure, and other aspects have by themselves a lot of potential. How much potential precisely? we will know only in several decades. When it comes to technology, there are devices we can already use today, such as sauna, red light therapy, or cryotherapy. The future will likely bring more obscure technologies like gene editing, 3D printing of organs, or robotic body parts. Let's look at what is the life expectancy at different stages of life. So far, we have been talking about life expectancy at birth. A natural question to ask is how long is a person that is already older than the life expectancy expected to live? Is his current expectation 0 or even negative? The answer is that everyone's life expectancy is always positive, no matter how old. As you go through life, your life expectancy increases. If you survive infancy, you know that the danger of infant mortality does not threaten you anymore. If you make it to retirement age, you know that you survived all the potential dangers that make people die younger. Here comes an important political and economic implication. If the life expectancy in a state is 80 and the retirement age is 65, you might think that people spend on average 15 years in retirement. This is not so. People that survive until the age of 65 may have remaining life expectancy of some 20 more years, surviving on average until 85 and thus spending several more years collecting retirement benefits. Even 90-year-olds have some positive remaining life expectancy. The statisticians look at all the people that survived until 90 and then ask how long did they continue living on average. By now, you are ready to understand the historic life expectancies. To simplify, life expectancy used to be below 35 basically anywhere, anytime in history before 1800. When I first encountered this fact as a small child, I asked whether it meant that people were grey and wrinkly at 30. But 30-year-olds used to look like they do today, perhaps less chubby, and many made it to old age. For example, Socrates in ancient Greece was killed at the age of 70. The very low life expectancy is attributable to the horsemen of apocalypse, disease, war, and famine. I told you before that high infant mortality is one of the main reasons for low life expectancy in the poorest countries today. But even their infant mortality of around 7% is a vast improvement relative to historic standards, when as much as half of all infants died. The COVID pandemic caused a small dip in life expectancy in many states for the first time in decades, even though it usually killed less than 1% of the population and the deaths were concentrated mostly among the elderly. Compare this with the Black Death, the 14th century plague, which often killed a third of the population, including young people, resulting in life expectancy drop in many countries to low 20s. Only in the last 200 years or so has the life expectancy began to rise consistently, thanks to better hygiene, modern medicine, better availability of food, and relative decrease of war casualties. The last question we need to answer is what is your actual life expectancy? Let's go back to the initial definition. I said that life expectancy is calculated based on the mortality rate in every age category during that year. This is a so-called period life expectancy. It has the advantage of informing you about the current situation. However, if you are a young person, it is not a good predictor of your actual life expectancy because it neglects the medical improvements that are likely to occur during your lifetime. For example, the period life expectancy was around 53 years in USA in 1920. Nevertheless, the people born in 1920 made it on average to the age of 65 because of the vast improvements in living standards and medicine, despite many of them being slaughtered in World War II. This second definition is a so-called cohort life expectancy. To calculate it, statisticians look at people born in a given year, say 1920, and then calculate the average age at which they actually died. This is much more accurate because it tracks all the developments that happened during the generation's lifetime. But it has an obvious drawback. You can know the precise cohort life expectancy only after everyone born that year dies, which is some 100 years later. Still, you can find cohort life expectancy for people born more recently, including those born this year. Be aware that those numbers are based on projections, and the more recent the birth year, the more uncertainty there is in the projections. With this in mind, the cohort life expectancy projections are still a better number to base your lifespan prediction on, especially the younger you are. The cohort life expectancy for current newborns is usually close to a decade longer than current period life expectancy. Let's hope that the projections will be proven right, or even better, pessimistic.